Hello. Today, we will solve a question from the TOEFL reading section, focusing on the read a notice question type. We will practice understanding everyday notices, identifying rules, instructions, or key conditions, and selecting the most accurate answer based on practical, real-life written information. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here for another session where we turn complex exam questions into simple, manageable steps. In today's lesson, we are going to tackle a common type of reading task that tests your ability to quickly grasp essential information from public announcements. By the end of this video, you'll feel much more confident spotting the details that matter most. If you're finding these lessons helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to my TOEFL and hit the notification bell. It's a great way to stay on track with your studies and ensure you never miss a tip that could boost your score. Downtown Transit Card Update Notice. Let's start by looking at the title of this notice. The title tells us exactly what the subject is. Here, we see the phrase Downtown Transit Card. This tells us the notice is about a card used for public transportation in the city center. The next important word is update. This word signals that there is a change or a renewal process happening that we need to pay attention to. So, right away, we know this is an announcement for passengers regarding their travel cards. Avoid service interruptions by updating your travel credentials before the system upgrade. Now, let's look at the subtitle. It explains why this update is important. The phrase, avoid service interruptions, is crucial. It warns us that if we don't take action, our ability to use the service might stop or be paused. It also tells us the action required is updating our information. Finally, it gives us a time frame condition with the word before. We must do this before the system changes. This sets a sense of urgency for the reader. Passengers using monthly transit cards must update their accounts before April 15 to prevent access delays. Let's analyze the first sentence of the details. It specifies exactly who needs to act. The phrase, monthly transit cards, tells us that this rule applies specifically to people who pay by the month. The phrase, must update, indicates a mandatory requirement. It is not optional. Lastly, we have a strict deadline, before April 15. Remembering dates and deadlines is often key to answering specific questions in the reading section. Sign into the Rider portal, select card services, and verify your contact and payment information. The second sentence gives us the how-to instructions. It starts with the action, sign in, which implies logging into a website or an app. It mentions the Rider portal, which is the specific place online where users manage their accounts. Finally, the user must verify their details. This sentence is very important because it describes the exact process the user must follow. If your card has expired, request a replacement and choose either home delivery or station pickup. This sentence introduces a conditional situation. It starts with if, leading to the condition where a card has expired. In this case, the instruction is different. The user must request a replacement. It also offers choices for receiving the new card, home delivery or station pickup. Notices often list alternatives like this, and they can be the focus of detail questions. A confirmation receipt will be emailed within 24 hours after the request is processed. The final sentence tells us what to expect after completing the process. The key term here is confirmation receipt, which is the proof of the transaction. We are told it will be emailed, indicating the method of communication. There is also a time frame, within 24 hours. This helps manage the user's expectations about when they will hear back. Now that we have thoroughly analyzed the text, let's move on to the first question. This question asks us to identify the source of the notice based on the context clues we just read. What type of business organization issued the notice? This question is asking for the type of business or organization that sent out this message. To answer this, we need to look at the vocabulary used in the notice. Words like transit, passengers, and rider give us strong clues. Specifically, the first sentence mentions passengers and monthly transit cards. These terms are directly related to moving people from one place to another. We need to find the option that matches this industry. Let's evaluate option A together. A public transportation provider. Option A suggests the notice comes from a public transportation provider. If we look back at the text, the title uses the words transit card, and the text refers to passengers and a rider portal. Transit and public transportation are closely related terms. This option aligns perfectly with the services described in the notice. Therefore, this option is correct. Let's move on to option B, a hotel management company. Option B suggests a hotel management company. While hotels have guests, they do not typically issue transit cards or have rider portals. The language in the notice refers to travel and commuting, not accommodation or lodging. There is no mention of rooms, bookings, or check-ins related to a hotel. Therefore, this option is incorrect. Next, we'll examine option C, a university admissions office. Option C proposes a university admissions office. Although students use transit cards, the notice itself is about the card system, not about enrolling in a university. Words like admissions, courses, or tuition are missing. The focus is purely on the transportation service, not education. Thus, this option is incorrect. Let's evaluate option D and see how it fits. A private medical clinic. Option D suggests a private medical clinic. Medical clinics deal with patients and appointments, not passengers and transit cards. There is no vocabulary in the text that relates to health, doctors, or medicine. The context is completely different. Therefore, this option is incorrect. The correct answer is A, because the key expressions in the text directly match this option, while the other choices either provide incomplete information or clearly contradict the passage. Great job on the first question. Now let's move on to the second question, which requires us to find specific instructions within the text. How can the customer/student user complete the process? This question asks how the user can complete the process. We are looking for the method or action the user needs to take. To find the answer, we should scan the text for action verbs or instructions on what to do. The text explicitly lists steps like sign in, select, and verify. We need to find the option that paraphrases these steps correctly. Let's take a closer look at option A, by mailing a written request to headquarters. Option A suggests mailing a written request. However, looking at the notice, the second sentence says to sign into a portal. This implies an online digital process, not sending physical mail. There is no mention of a mailing address or writing a letter. Therefore, this option is incorrect. Now let's examine option B, by logging into the rider website and updating account details. Option B says the user should do this by logging into the rider website and updating account details. Let's compare this with the text. The notice says, sign into the rider portal and verify your contact and payment information. Sign in means the same as logging in, and rider portal is a rider website. Also, verifying information is a form of updating details. This matches the instructions perfectly. Therefore, this option is correct. Let's move on to option C, by speaking with a driver during regular service hours. Option C suggests speaking with a driver. The notice directs users to a rider portal online. It does not instruct passengers to talk to any staff members or drivers on the bus or train to update their accounts. This would likely cause delays, which the notice is trying to avoid. Therefore, this option is incorrect. Finally, let's check option D, by submitting documents at a local bank branch. Option D suggests submitting documents at a local bank branch. While the notice mentions payment information, it does not ask users to go to a bank. The process described is entirely digital, through the rider portal. There is no instruction to visit a physical location like a bank. Therefore, this option is incorrect. The correct answer is B, because the key expressions in the text directly match this option, while the other choices either provide incomplete information or clearly contradict the passage.